Well, hello everybody. Pastor Randy here. Welcome to Making It Simple. Great to be back with you on this beautiful Tuesday. Hope you enjoyed your Labor Day and all the activities or whatever that may have been. If nothing else but an extra day off from work and a little extra rest. We started yesterday. I just gave you just a little introduction to something called spiritual success. Now, I know we define that word success oftentimes in life again with accomplishment. And while that's great, what I want us to look at is navigating life. We've been talking about wisdom for life as we look at the Proverbs. We did a lesson out of Proverbs chapter 3, that really spoke to me because when we think about leaning not on our understanding, that is a powerful tool all in and of itself. But then we further this when it says, in this verses that we're looking at right now, don't be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. It will be the health to your flesh and the strength to your bones. The word key, the literal word key, when we hear that, we associate that with the key to a door, the key to a lock, the key to your car, whatever. When we identify that word, when we define that word, it says to be a notched device used for unlocking or winding. That's typically what we think of when we hear about key. However, it also means a critical element. In other words, it is the key that makes it work. It is the key that unlocks the situation, not just the door. It is the key. It's the answer. It's what we're looking for. It's something necessary. It is a must. In other words, chocolate ice cream, the key to that is the chocolate. You got to have it. Okay? When we search through words, and we look in particular at the words here of the book of Proverbs, we see wisdom defined. We talk about that from chapter 1 as we saw wisdom and continue to see wisdom as a person, as an identity, as a living, breathing thing. We see wisdom defined. We also see wisdom revealed. Again, success. We oftentimes see that by observing what has been gained. Some type of achievement, some type of goal, crossing the finish line, scoring the touchdown, hitting the home run, getting the title of president or whatever, all these, winning the Oscar, all this. Some type of tangible thing. We tend to see that as what's going on. It's pretty easy, at least as we define things, to deem something as a success or not. We have sayings like, well, that didn't work, so we don't think that was a success. That goal that I was pursuing, it didn't happen. That objective that I have, well, it didn't go the way that I wanted it to. But how do we move that over into the realm of our spiritual life? How do we find things that not only drive us to pursue success, but actually give us the key to obtain that? What does that look like? How do we find spiritual success? This is not a bunch of rules and regulations. This is not cracking the moral whip. While that's important, I want us to listen to the words in these verses. We examine this beautiful formula that Solomon gives to us here. And I want us to look for just these next several lessons together as we identify, if you will, and look at some keys. We go back to that word of spiritual success. Number one is humility. Humility. He says here, don't be wise in your own eyes. That's a tough one, right? Because I'm the smartest guy I know, right? That's how we see things. He's not talking about not being able to obtain wisdom, because obviously we've talked about that before. He's not talking about the lack of an intelligence, but rather, I know it all. And I'm the only one that can know it all. And nobody else has anything for me. I am completely and totally filled to the brim, and no one can show me anything, teach me anything. You see where that's going? That doesn't leave room, not only for anything else, it doesn't even leave room for God, the creator of all. In other words, if I already know everything, if you're a musician and you know everything, according to this, don't be wise in your own eyes. Let's just say a guitar player. Okay, now I have my favorites. Over the years, I've been exposed at my age. I have been blessed to be in the same time frame as probably the greatest guitar players that ever lived. Okay? Stevie Ray Vaughan, Chet Atkins, Jerry Reed, Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, on so and on so. Okay, let's just say that you're a guitar player. And you say, but I know every single chord, every single method, every single everything, and nobody, not even those guys, could show me anything. When we become unwilling to learn, when we're no longer moldable, shapeable, whatever the case, then we limit ourselves to our own intelligence, to our own ability. In other words, we cut ourselves short. Here, when we think about this, do not be wise in your own eyes. Humility makes us Christ-like. In other words, I'm willing to hear. What did Jesus pray in the garden? He said unto the Father, not my will, but yours be done. We live in a world that's often ego-driven. You know, look at me, look at my accomplishments, hear my name, and it just, we're seeing a time right now to where I'm right, that attitude, it dominates everything. Everything, every walk, every genre. Doesn't matter whether it's acting or music or plumbing. It doesn't matter. We see this. Pastoring is no different either. There's a lot of egos in this business, I promise you that. Being right is something we all desire. We all want to be right. Nobody wants to either be told that they're wrong or even come to the conclusion that they're wrong. But that's how we grow, friends. Be not wise. Do not be wise in your own eyes. I've been doing this now for 22 years. Okay? When I look back at who I was when I first started, back in the early 2000s, to right now, not only have I aged physically, but I've aged mentally and in a mature way. I am so glad I am not who I was when I first started in multiple ways. Do I still have my flaws? Absolutely. But what I speak to even more so is the ability to listen and learn. Willingness is the key in that. The ability to listen and learn. We have the ability. God gives us that. It's the willingness to put those into action. I'm right often gets in the way of that. Now, there are times that we are, but there's a lot of times that we're not. Are we willing to receive the instruction of the Lord? That's the first key, humility. Lord, I wasn't right. I didn't do that right. I didn't handle that right. I didn't answer that question right. I didn't do the proper study to get the real answer. You see, so many are dominated by wanting to be right, to be seen in a popular way or in a favorable way, that they work so hard to create that character, that personality. Being right has dominated whether they're right. That makes sense? Many popular people, and I'm going to just use ministry because that's the most profound part of my life. Obviously, beyond personal things, family and children, what have you. But when we in my salvation in Christ, but when we think about the dominating voices within ministry, it's the guys on TV, it's the elder statesman, if you will, and I don't want to get into a bunch of names, but their names are mentioned and everybody oohs and ahs and they've been around but that doesn't mean that they're right. I know, and again, I could call names, but I'm not going to. But there's one particular gentleman that's out in California, and he's been around forever, and everybody reveres his name, but he's not right. And I don't say that out of arrogance. I'm not being wise in my own eyes, but what he teaches is absolutely not right. And the arrogance of this person, when they're asked questions, one of his last interviews that I saw, a person asked a question. There was a Q&A deal, and the person asked a question, and his response was, "It's not my fault that I'm right and you're not." That's not humility. Humility is the key to open this door to understanding about not being wise in our own eyes. Humility is the key to learning, as we talked about in our last lesson, to trust in the Lord and lean not onto our understanding. Being right, of course, is something we desire, but I'm going to end on this. If it becomes an obsession, it can lead to pride. And humility, or being humble, that's thrown out the door. Proverbs 16 and 18, which we'll eventually get to, but it says clearly, pride goes before destruction. Humility is the first key to spiritual success. It's what starts turning the chambers in that lock to open that door so that we can see things not through our eyes, but through His. God bless you, friends. Thank you for joining me today for Making It Simple. We're getting this spiritual success lesson kicked off. We'll jump back in tomorrow. I'll see you then.